friends, welcome to my potager at the end of May. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Julia. I garden here in Vermont in Zone 5. I have several different garden places, but this video is going to focus on my potager, which is my large kitchen garden, and it incorporates fruits and vegetables and flowers, especially cut flowers, and herbs. Yes, those are the main things in here. I try to do it in a pleasing design, and it changes every year. This is a very much in progress garden where we are right now. My normal last frost is early mid-May. We are towards the end of May, but we've had some really crazy weather this year. We've gone to really extremes as far as colds and heat back and forth. And we actually had a frost, I think earlier this week. I'll put the date on here when we had an actual frost. And it's been a little chilly even recently in the nights, but I think we're good to go now. So I'm working on hardening off some of my tender annuals like tomatoes and such. But there are a lot of beds that you'll see that are even just have weeds in them. I'm looking at them right now. So they'll have to be cleared and and be planted up. So I've planted up, I don't know, maybe a quarter, maybe a third of the garden so far, but I'll show you what I've done. And then there's a lot of like hardscaping infrastructure work I want to do this year. But I've started on some stuff, but I think most of it's going to wait until after I get things planted. So I'm actually standing in the middle of the garden right now, which is unusual for me to start with, but I thought I'd start with the quince tree. Let me turn you around. So this is my quince tree here. Right now the alliums are blooming all around it, which are so fun. If you don't have alliums, I highly recommend them. They are, these variety are fall planted bulbs. And I think this was just a mix that I got, so I don't actually know the individual varieties, but they're mostly come in these purple balls, but I actually also have these white ones, which I think are super fun and get pretty tall. Some of the ones over there are just about as tall as my tree. I got beautiful blooms on this quince this year. I'm going to put a picture in here. They don't last very long. It was actually blooming so beautifully on the night we got the freeze, so it was the one thing that I decided to try to cover. And I think it worked. I think they were all okay, or they all looked decent afterwards. Let me zoom in on some of these that still look pretty good. Here. Quince tree blooms are gorgeous, and I now understand why there's flowering quince as well. But this one does fruit. It's not a fruit tree that's you find a lot in the United States today. I don't know if it's more common in other countries, but the fruit is really hard. You can't really eat it raw. So you have to get in there with a knife, and then you have to cook it. And I found some at the grocery store a couple of years ago, and I made a pie with them, and it was delicious. So I just think it's really fun to have more unusual things. So it's here. It's growing nicely, a little slowly, but nice. I got it as a small whip. Planted it in 2019. So that's that. It also had gorgeous daffodils around the bottom. It gets really pretty daffodils. So I'm going to wait for that foliage to die back, yellow and die back, and then I'll clean the weeds out and probably underplant it with something. But for right now, we're just enjoying the alliums. All right, it's hard to know where to go here. There's lots of directions. You can see behind, we're going to do the tomatoes in this bed here. This is, last year I had corn and sunflowers over here. And so I moved things all around. I even moved the landscaping fabric that I had, so that I took it up and amended the soil and put down the fabric for the tomatoes. Although I added a couple, so I'll have to burn holes, and my husband still has to help me put up one more trellis section. We're just using fencing because I have not been able to figure out how to get cattle panels to my house without my own truck. So I may work on that more in the future. I would love to have some. I think they would work a little bit better or look a little neater at least, but this is working fine. We have it connected to a T-post, I think, more regularly than you would need for a cattle panel, I believe. But yeah, I've used it for several years now, and it holds it up fine. So that will be tomatoes and basil and probably some other flowers in there as well. The beds around the quince where I'm standing, there's a couple beds here. Hopefully I'm not making you dizzy. Hi. and the other side over there. I am going to definitely do beans, and then I kind of left them open. I'm still debating a little bit, but at this point I'm leaning towards doing flowers and maybe also squash. But I'm not sure if the squash will like envelop the flower. We're going to see how it works. We'll see. Those are my thoughts. But I'm definitely planning on doing bush beans around the edges. I want them to look kind of designed and artistic and fun. Okay, we don't normally start back here. I'm trying to switch things up by how I've done the tours in the past. So we're going to move on back to this section. So there was a like tunnel thing here, and I took it out for right now. Yeah, I just took it out for right now. I think this year I'm actually going to put, just leave this section with, I'm going to put landscape fabric and gravel down and have like a little table and maybe some pots. Then I have some ideas for big changes in the potager next year. So I'm trying to keep those also in mind as I'm going. And honestly, the changes may not even all happen in 1 year, but I'm trying to like keep that in mind as I'm also trying to make it nice for this year. So, yes, let's go over here. So this bed here, okay, so when we first put this bed in, it was my strawberry bed. But then a couple years ago, when I went to uncover the strawberries, they had straw on them for winter, they were basically gone. So I was sad about it, and I kind of just let this bed go, and it was like full of weeds last year. I never got to it. I had intended to put flowers in it, but didn't get to it. So I cleaned it out this spring, and these were actually strawberries that I found in the bed, the string. There's actually one there too. So these I found, and I put them in the pot, and they actually look like they need some water. A lot of things need some water. It's also been super dry. So I'm going to be coming out here. I did water a couple things earlier, but anyway. And then here I have these bean structures that I made, or pea structures in this case, with branches that I cut down. I cut down a small tree, large shrub from the end of our driveway. I just every couple of years ago cut it back down, and I used the branches for some structures. And these are a magnolia sugar snap pea, and I believe these are the purple ones. So they're here. And then my intention is to put cucumber seeds in this bed. And I'm going to try not trellising them up and kind of just letting them go a little wild. We're going to see how that works. Okay, this is a beautiful elder tree from which you get elder flowers and elderberries. And you can see the flowers, the umbels are starting to form. They are beautiful. Love that shot. Okay. So beautiful. It is huge. I mean, I don't know. You can't really use me for scale here, but I am 5'3", and it is, I mean, I think it's well over 6 feet at this point. I have underplanted it with a few things. So there's comfrey there. That's that big bush with the purple flowers, and there's some strawberries and violets in there that I did see earlier this year. You can actually see some strawberry flowers. I don't know if you could see back there. Then there's also just a lot of weeds. I may, like next early spring, winter, start limbing it up a bit so that it's more in a tree form and less in a shrub form. But, you know, I'm considering it. I've gotten so many both elderflowers and elderberries from this last year, and I'm sure harvest more this year, it looks like. So absolutely beautiful. So I haven't done anything with this back edge yet this year. My plan is to do sweet potatoes, but my slips aren't growing super well. So we may have a few sweet potatoes, and then I'll probably end up putting flowers, probably sunflowers. We'll see. I've got to knock that back, but that's like the bottom priority right now. Okay, so let's look at these raised beds. Let me start. You can see the tulips. They are beautiful. We are going to have some days in the 80s, so I think they're going to be just about done. So I will actually probably cut some tomorrow, I think. I think the day after that's supposed to start getting into the 80s. So I'll probably come out tomorrow morning and like cut a big arrangement. And then I will let the foliage yellow and die back in the hopes that we can get some more next year. I may move them. Like, it's not recommended to keep the tulips in a bed like this because I think it encourages tulip diseases, or at least you don't want to plant tulips in the same place 2 years in a row, or I think you want to leave several years in between because of diseases. But anyway, I got to think about where I want to put those. Okay, so right in front of those, you can see there's some lettuce that I put in. I had some, actually they're growing beautifully. So this section of the bed that's not really planted up yet, except for the lettuce, is going to be a succession of pro-cut sunflowers. So because last year I planted them where they all bloomed basically at once, and then they're done, because the pro-cut ones are designed for cutting, and so you just get one stem. And most of them had bloomed when we were away at my sister's wedding. I just did not time that well. So I'm going to come probably soon. I should get the first seeds in the ground. I probably could have already done it, but I didn't. So you'll see we're on the north side here. So I'm going to start by just planting like 1 or 2 rows at a time, probably just 1 row at a time, every week or so. And moving from this side, the north-south. So by the time I want to plant them in the south, that lettuce should hopefully be ready to harvest. That's the plan. So, and where the tulips are going, I think I'm going to put some small pumpkins there, some small pumpkin plants, and I will direct sow those. Okay, there's a story with this bed here. These are my brassicas. In a recent video on planting spring crops, you'll have seen me plant up this bed. This side closer to us is broccoli and Brussels sprouts. I think the Brussels sprouts are closest to us, and then the other half is broccoli. And then the other side is mostly cabbage with a few kohlrabi that I grew from seed. The broccoli and Brussels sprouts were both purchased from a local nursery as starts. Now, I mentioned we had that night of frost. And I only covered the quince. I was like, brassicas are hardy. They like some cold. They'll be perfectly fine. Well, no, I should have covered them. Honestly, they're like the one thing I regret not covering. Most everything was fine. I had only put out cold tolerant things. But yeah, they definitely got hit. But I think most of them there's already fresh growth. Like you can tell, this one's a good example. It only really got these outside leaves on these, and these still look great in here. So I came out a day or two later, and I gave them some fish emulsion and watered them in well. Again, it's been dry, so I need to come out. I've been trying to water, but the hose line actually that goes out here, also there's a leak in the house from that spigot, so it makes it a lot harder to water. So doing my best, but it's not perfect. There are a few cabbages that might be a loss, like these ones there might be a loss. And so I think I'm going to start some new cabbages inside from seed to pop in. But honestly, a lot of them are okay. So, you know, could have been a lot worse. There was a lot of people around me in my state who were kind of in a warm pocket, and they had it a lot worse. So can't really complain. That looks like it's planted up, that bed on the left, but that's just weeds. So my intention is for that to be peppers and eggplant. And I just started hardening those off today. So it'll be weeded before I put them in there. Behind here, we've got some more sugar snap peas. I believe these are magnolia ones that just are green. The pods are green, not purple. I did come in here and weed this bed. My plan is to direct sow some zucchini seeds around there. Now, I am planting densely. I'm not leaving a ton of space. It's going to be a jungle. It's just what it is. I'm okay with that. Back here, we had this pleasant surprise. I tried to move the fall planted bulbs from this bed last fall. So the previous fall in 2021, I forget what year it is, I planted fall cutting bulbs in here. It was my first time planting cutting bulbs in a raised bed. It worked out beautifully. I had hyacinths, tulips, and these beautiful alliums. And as I said last fall, I tried to dig them up and transplant them, but I obviously missed a bunch. And I actually think I thought I had gotten most of the tulips when I was actually harvesting the tulips, but apparently I didn't. So we actually got some tulips from the year before. They were like nice surprise bonus tulips, a few hyacinths, and these beautiful alliums. So I'm leaving them. I may, again, when I go to transplant the other ones, I may do something with them. So I'm trying to think about where I want to put everything and how I want to do that. But yeah, okay. This bed here, this is from a video a while ago where we planted where you came with me and I planted ranunculus and anemones. I recently took off the hoops. These are really cold tolerant. I didn't worry about them at all, and they were perfectly fine. There are some more weeds in there. It's bothering. I was just out here weeding today. I've been much better at weeding this year already, but I have very limited time and a very lot of garden space, so it is what it is. I'm letting that comfrey grow at the edge. It is beautiful. The seed must have landed there, and a lot of people say that wouldn't be ideal, but the bees love it. There's a bee. Hang on. They're just having a feast. Nice. Okay, so it's so pretty and so good for the pollinators. And a lot of people will use this as a living mulch. So later in the year, you could like chop and drop it somewhere. And it pulls up a lot of nutrients from the soil. So when you do that, the nutrients go back into the soil. So, okay. Ranunculus anemones. I've got green growth. Hopefully we'll have flowers. I think last year I didn't get the flowers till June. So I think that's going to be the case again this year. Okay, so my asparagus bed is super weedy. I was really worried about the asparagus. I think, get a lot of the thistle out. It doesn't look like there's a lot of thistle growing in there. I do intend to clean it out, but it's growing. So this is what asparagus does. Actually, you can see this one hasn't quite completely fronded. Okay, so you can see this one. You can see how like you get the asparagus shoot comes up and then how it turns into the fronds like the one behind it. So isn't that so cool? And these are so thick. So they seem to be okay. I'm actually considering moving them either this fall or next spring. I know it's not recommended to transplant them, but I don't like their current location. I think I might want to try putting them in a raised bed. I think it might be easier for me to maintain. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm thinking about it. All right, I'm going to pop back here because there's some flowers. Can you see what I see? Those are stock flowers. Let me get closer. I actually planted these, I think, a little less than a week ago. I think I was out here planting these. So these poor things just really needed to get out of their containers, I guess, or the little thing they were in. Look how pretty. Let's see what variety this is. This is the Quartet Cherry Blossom stock. So hopefully this one will branch for us. I might come out and cut it to encourage more branching. I didn't think to do that before. That's a beautiful, beautiful color. And it looks like a lot of them are budded up and doing pretty well. So, yeah. I have more of these to plant in other beds in the house that also just need to be planted. So much planting to do. All right, let's move on. Okay, this is all mostly weeds until we get to the end. These are the branches for my bean TV that's going to go back over there. So, yes, hopefully that'll get done soon so I can sow my beans. This is going to be pumpkins. So this is one of the areas where, this is actually where the tomatoes were last year. So again, we moved the landscape fabric from the tomatoes, amended the soil, put on this landscape fabric. So, for pumpkins and more branches there. I actually have extra branches for different projects. All right. This will end up being flowers along the edge here. Yes, but obviously mostly not planted yet, except for this little patch of Amidara that I just weeded earlier today. So it looks a little happier than it did, but it's growing really well. So I'm happy with it. Actually, I'm not really sure if this last one looks like it, but it also looks like the stuff that I've been weeding out of my garden. So I'll be keeping an eye on that one. Can't quite remember how many I planted, so I should probably check the video on that. I wanted to show you this from this angle. This is the southern gate of my garden. I built these branch structures for shelling peas, and you can see on either side they're starting to come up. See? Now the germination's a little bit spottier than I would like. So I am probably going to come out here. I've been meaning to do it earlier. I meant to do it earlier, but I'm probably going to come out here and re-sow some of them. I think this side's growing better than this side over here. It looks a little bit spottier. In front of them, or like on the edge, I did just put in some sweet alyssum that I grew from seeds. It alternates white and purple. So I'm excited for those to take off and create little puffs of alyssum. I think it'll be super pretty. And then at the end of each row, these were just like, I didn't plant them as soon as they would have liked to be planted, but these are Swiss chard. There's different rainbow chard seed like that. It just wasn't happy where it was. So I'll just take those off, and it's going to grow very nicely from fresh growth, hopefully. Yeah, it will. Fresh growth will grow really nicely. So I tried to get like the different colors at the different ends. I love sweet alyssum. I wish you could smell it. It's like a honey, it's sweet alyssum. It's a sweet smell. It's amazing. Oh, let's not forget over here. Let's go this way. These are my potatoes. I also planted those it's in the spring planting video. I wasn't seeing any growth after a couple weeks or a week and a half. I don't know. It was making me nervous. So I checked underneath, and it didn't look like they looked okay, but they didn't look like they were doing much. They were just sitting there. And I realized it had been pretty dry. And also there was just so much hay on top that I was worried about it. So I took off about half the hay. So it's like half of it is kind of to the side. I don't know if you can tell, next to it. And I watered it in well. We did get some rain a couple days ago. I'm going to have to be back here watering, I think, over the next few days, as it's supposed to be hot and that there's no rain in the forecast, which is a bummer. So I'm going to try to keep it better watered. I think that will help. And then when I start seeing the green leaves poking through the hay, I'm going to put the rest of the hay on top, if that makes sense. So kind of like hilling it up when you see it come up, except with hay. That's my plan. All right. We've got our snapdragons here. I didn't end up replacing any of them. They were hit by cold a little bit, even though I had covered them. And so some are still looking a little sad, but they're all growing back from the base. Some of them look absolutely gorgeous and are like bushing out nicely. Honestly, my favorites are the ones down here. These are the Madame Butterfly bronze series. There's a couple different ones, and they're my favorites. So I'm happy to see them looking so healthy. There's a couple that are super tiny that I could still replace. And there's one that's like all wilty here. I don't know what happened with this one here, which is a bummer because it looked really pretty, but I don't know if maybe its roots just got disturbed. Then I've got Rudbeckia, which I just unearthed from a bunch of weeds. So it's looking a little sad, but hopefully it'll pick up soon. I mean, it's still alive, so, well, mostly. I'm not 100% sure about that one, but I do have some extras, so I can always pop one in there. And then this, I don't think I did this in a video. I think I was racing a storm planting these. These are Lysianthus that I grew from seed. One of my very first videos of the garden year was me sowing Lysianthus. I sowed it in little soil blocks, and then I moved them. I don't think I have it on video, but I ended up moving them to a cell tray. And then now they're finally in the ground. Some of them are bigger than others. Some of them are super tiny, but I've been told that they generally pick up after they're planted. So I'm hopeful. And I put them pretty close together, about 4 inches apart, because that's what I was told to do. They'll hold each other up better. And I have several varieties in here. I don't even remember which ones. But if they bloom well and we can do a tour, I can tell you then. Here we have a Canterbury Bells mix. And then after that we have straw flower. And closest to where the opening is there is Scabiosa or pincushion flower. None of them are blooming yet, but they all look healthy and good. This is a bed of onions with some shallots and leeks. It's mostly onions and mostly clump planted just because I did not have a ton of room. So you can see, like, this is not one onion. And I did this in a video as well. I tried to explain it, but this is several onions. And then I think this one has 4 or 5. And then as it grows, I can take them out to use as spring onions, or they actually just kind of push against each other. And they might not get as big as they otherwise would, but I found that they've grown really nicely for me this way. So that's what I'm doing. So I have all my red onions here planted that way. And then I have yellow onions. I mostly use yellow onions. Like the red onions I'll use for like fresh eating, or I like to pickle them, but like most of my cooking I'll use a yellow onion. So that's what these are. I forget the variety name. I know I have it somewhere, but so I did some singly here, you can see, And I did put them fairly close together. Looks like I might have lost one in here somewhere. I don't know. And then I did some in like clump form, just like I did the red ones. And then if we come down to the end here, I just had to double check, but we have like a couple rows back in here of shallots. And then there's some flowers. Now these are Sweet Williams and these ones are biennial, so I just left them. Looks like they're gonna flower beautifully this year. And on the other side of those, we have leeks. I think I might have also planted these in clumps just because I was running out of room, and I think that'll work fine. And then violets at the end. You can see there's violets at the end of that one too, and I'll come back to that bed. I just wanted to mention on the other side of the Sweet William here, I did plant some, those are some Iceland poppies that I started from seed. I only had a couple of them that did okay, and so it looks like they've grown since I planted them though, so hopefully they'll flower at some point. Okay, so down here, let me kind of explain what's going on. The fabric is where carrots and rutabaga and beets are. That was also my spring planting video. We've got some violets, and these violets were here last year, and they've come back. They're so pretty. These are all weeds on the side. I haven't done anything with this yet. I need to clean it out. Yeah. And then I've got bachelor's buttons, which just came back from last year, and so I left them. I had noticed them when I went to clean out the bed in the fall, and so I just like covered them with straw and left them. So, oh, so pretty. That's why they're blooming so early. It's because they're basically fall planted. So pretty. I just noticed these today. So we're getting some early blooms. Okay, and then this is my garlic, which I also planted in the fall. I've got soft neck here. The smaller ones are soft neck. And then I've got, let's see, this is a Inchillum. Oh no, this is all soft neck over here. I think I planted more of that this year because I found that it lasts better for me, oddly. And then we've got, let's see, German Hardy, and then like a purple garlic. And oh my goodness, I missed this when I was weeding before. Okay. Yeah, so those all look pretty good. It was a little dry. I've been trying to pay more attention to giving them water, so like the tips were getting a little more yellow than I would like, so I gave them some fish emulsion, and I've been making sure to water more often, so they're looking a lot better than they were actually. And I've been trying to weed. There's still some weeds in there, but it's pretty good. We're almost at the time of year where I'll be looking for scapes, which will be very exciting because they're tasty. Okay, we're going to finish up by going back into the middle because I missed a section that I do want to show you that I often miss. So let's go see that. Okay, on the other side of the quince tree, that bed that looks like it has a lot of tall grass and weeds, that's my edible flower bed. And I do actually have some flowers coming up in it right now. It just needs to be cleaned out, and I need to sow and plant some things. But these are beautiful black pansies. There's sweet violets nearby that were growing before. There's more pansies and violets in here. It's a little dark. And then this is a bergamot or bee balm, and I think this is the purple variety. I'm pretty sure it's like a light purple variety of bee balm. This bed back here is going to have corn in it either tomorrow or the next day. I will sow that. And then these here are my herb beds. So I have an herb circle here, which is pretty full. Some of it's weeds, you know. The chamomile is kind of taking over, and I'm just okay with that because I love it. This is the chamomile here. This is a German chamomile. It's the most medicinal kind. I'm actually gonna... This is one of those that I wish you could smell. Like the smell of this is just, it's just so good. I'm just gonna keep it in my pocket so that I can smell it later. Benefits of overalls. Okay. To go back to the herbs, I feel like I often forget to show the herbs, so I'm going to try to do that this year. All right, so we've got some sage, which looks like it's budding up to blossom. Sage has glorious blossoms. There's thyme, which is blossoming. This is a German thyme. There's random pansies around. There's lavender in the middle, which I need to clean up, but it looks like it's growing back nicely. This is a beautiful lady's mantle. Oh, I wish I could show. I should have taken a picture. It had like some drops of water on it before. It's really pretty when it's got drops of water. It does look like I could clean some of it out. It's a little rough, but yeah. And then here is lemon balm. Now, My lemon balm and some of my bergamot, not the one here, but some of my bergamot on the other side, did get a little bit nipped by the frost. So that's what this is. I'm going to come in and just cut like all this back pretty hard. And then it should flush out with new growth. I mean, it's already covering up. I needed to take all this out from last year anyway. So I'm going to do that. And then, I mean, there's some good stuff in here too. It's another one that smells so good that I will just harvest and use in teas and such. But it smells so good. All right, there's more chamomile there. I will sow some calendula in here too, because this bed's supposed to have calendula in it. Now, I did plant St. John's wort in this spot, and it is supposed to be perennial for me, but I'm not sure if that's what this is or not, or if it's a weed. So I'm leaving it. I'm going to need to try to identify it later. We'll see. We'll see what that is. Okay, let me talk about this bed over here a little bit. My intention is for this to be more of a medicinal herb bed. I do have some yarrow growing in this pot here because it is very invasive, so I thought if I kept it in a pot, that'd be good. Hopefully it doesn't root out through the bottom, though. I'm going to have to keep an eye on that. This, I mean, all needs to be weeded. Okay, so I planted holy basil here last year, but like that doesn't usually come back for me. So I'm going to have to make sure I identify that correctly, but I think it might be holy basil coming back. Not 100% sure. This is echinacea that's coming back, the purple coneflower. And then I've got some feverfews, which I planted last year and they didn't do much, but they look beautiful now. So that's cool. These are kind of, I haven't really cleaned my perennials up at all. Again, because it's been so cold, I try to wait until the nights are warmer. But this is a Hyssop officinalis, so official hyssop. It gets, well, there's also some weeds in here. Like, so this is a weed. This is the hyssop. It gets a cool stalk of flowers. And then next to it is anise hyssop, which is actually a different plant. This is also called agastache, but it's also known as anise hyssop. And it's in the mint family, so it does look like the bergamot and the lemon balm and other things you've seen. And it gets also a purple spike, but looks different than the Hyssop officinalis purple spike. I thought it would be fun to plant them near each other, so that's what I did. Then we've got another huge comfrey here. I didn't even clean up the comfrey that I chopped and dropped last year there. Yeah, and more bees on them because they love them. All right. And then, okay, this bed is particularly messy, but there are a few things in here. My intention is for this to be my culinary herb bed, and we do have some herbs that have come back. This here is oregano. Let's see here. I need to weed, and I actually really need to harvest it because it went to flower pretty fast last year, so I need to harvest a bunch because I need it for my pantry. I actually this year just stuck some shallots I had left over in here. I need to water those. I keep forgetting they're there. We've got a sage over there it's budding up, and then there's just a couple varieties of sage in here actually. There's a variegated sage, and beyond that there's a purple leaf sage, and those have all come back. I planted those last year, so those are beautiful. There's also several varieties of thyme. Let me get closer to those. This one is a silver-edged thyme. I just thought it was really pretty. I wasn't sure if this one was going to come back or not, so I'm glad it did. I've got a lemon thyme here, which also smells so good. And I think that's just the German thyme back there that's going to flower on me. And then my parsley, I don't know if it probably reseeded itself. There's two different kinds. There's like the curly-leafed one and the flat-leafed one. It looks like the curly-leafed one. I'm guessing there's some frost damage on this, so I should probably cut those, and I should actually just bring some in to eat. Yum. So those are all in there. I will be sticking some more culinary herbs in here, like dill, and I had lemon verbena in here last year. That was really nice. So I'll be like looking for some stuff. I also had marjoram in here at some point, and it doesn't look like it survived. Yeah, a lot of weeds, a lot of work to be done, but hopefully it'll get done eventually. That's my potager at the end of May in 2023. As I said before, it's really in progress right now. A lot of work to be done, but some good things happening. Some plants in the ground, some plants coming back. I always love seeing perennials come back. And again, I think the weather's about to turn, so I'll feel better about cutting back perennials and things like that, and getting my more tender annuals like tomatoes, zinnias, things like that into the garden. So that'll be fun. And also, lots of direct seeding to do. So, all right, friends, I hope you enjoyed that tour. I'm gonna my intention is to do at least one every month. I might try to get to 2 a month if I can. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of changes over just the next few weeks, so we will probably try to do a mid-June tour, early mid-June. We'll see. Until then, though, you can follow what I'm doing around. I'm sure I'll have other videos before then of all the other things that I'm working on. I got a lot of pretty plants recently at a nursery that I need to get into the ground, so I'm hoping to share that with you. But until I see you in the next video, happy gardening.